Have you ever wondered why the moment you start needing him, the moment he starts wanting you less, the moment you start pursuing him, the moment he starts pulling away, it's like he is a mirror to your actions. He is mirroring the way on how you show up in the relationship, except that the mirror is reflecting back the opposite of what you do. So when you crave him more, he starts craving you less. When you start initiating more, he starts initiating less. It's like the moment you start falling in love with him and the moment you try to get closer to him, he starts backing off. He starts pulling away. Maybe he gives you a reason, or maybe he doesn't. He may say that he's busy with work or that he needs some space. But either way, you find that anytime you try to get close to him, he starts distancing away from you. And this is a cycle that so many sensitive, empathic women find themselves in. It is a cycle of what I call neediness. It's a toxic, addictive cycle where the relationship is all good and sunshine at first, but then you start becoming more attached to him. You start falling more in love with him, and then you start investing your energy, effort for him, and then suddenly he backs out, he pulls away. He doesn't reciprocate you and your love as much. And if that is the cycle that you find yourself in, then keep on watching, because in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you exactly why this happens, why it is that the more you need him, the more he wants you less, and how to stop this cycle for good, where instead of being the one who needs him, rather than that, you become adored, you become seen, heard, loved, and pursued. Because until I understand this about what is actually going on, the same way I found myself trapped in this unhealthy love cycle where I was the one who was begging for men to be with me, chasing after men so that they give attention to me, and in the end they only end up leaving me, breaking up with me. And no matter how many times I tried in love, I found myself being heartbroken because I was the one who was wanting more, who was needing more, who was pursuing more, who was unreciprocated, unchosen by men. And only when I understand it, that was how I rewired my love relationship patterns for good into now becoming loved, being loved, seen, heard, chosen by my husband, who stays with me, who commits to me, who pursues me, even after years and years of being together. The love only grows stronger. And in this video, I'm here to share with you how to break out of this cycle of neediness and become loved, adored, and pursued for good. So, what you first need to understand if you are to let go of this cycle of neediness and instead become the one who is loved, adored, and pursued is to first realize that the truth is neediness is actually not love. Because what neediness actually is that it is a disease. It is the disease of the heart, the soul, the psyche. It's like neediness is this little disease. I'm gonna draw this little bug right here, this bug inside of you that is constantly seeking and searching and is deprived of love. And the thing is, this disease makes you more deprived of love, and in a moment I'm going to be sharing with you how. But what you need to understand first and foremost is that the truth is neediness is a disease. And again, I say this with so much love because I have totally been there. I know that you are a soul who has a big heart, which again also is the reason why you are prone to the disease of neediness. Because think about it, when you have this big heart and soul, someone who has a big heart and soul, it's more like the ideal host for this disease, ideal host for this bug to infect you. I know that you're someone with a big heart and a soul. When you love someone deeply. When you get into a relationship, you go all in to give it your all. And this is the reason why it's almost like your heart, your soul is like the ideal host for this plague of disease, in fact, to be on. And what this disease of neediness, what this bug does is that neediness actually is a disease where you become afraid of yourself. Neediness is a disease where you try to run away from yourself by using the other person. In this case, in terms of your love life, your dating life, that means by using the man that you're in a relationship with, you then use him so that you can avoid being with yourself, so that you can run away from yourself. So what happens is when you have this disease of neediness, this plague of neediness that is infecting the soul, the heart, the psyche, what then happens is that whenever we're on our own, we find ourselves restless, we find ourselves anxious, we find ourselves overthinking about the past, overthinking on what you should have done, what you should have said, or daydreaming about the future, when actually it is a fantasizing, it is a way of escaping the present moment and fantasizing an ideal future with him, a romantic future where you're living together or you're imagining the name of your kids, etc. But what it all comes down to is the fact that when you are infected by this disease of neediness, what it essentially does is that it makes you become afraid of yourself. And therefore, whenever you are with yourself, by yourself, it feels scary. It feels like there is an empty void. There is a hole inside your chest where you feel uncomfortable. And then, in order to escape from this void, you then use your partner, you then use the guy that you're seeing to run away from yourself, to avoid being with yourself. That, my love, is what neediness is. And so, as a result of neediness, what then happens is that you cannot have access to your heart anymore. Because why? Because you're running away from yourself, running away from your own heart. And as a result, because of this disease, because of this plague, you can think of it that way, because of this disease of neediness, we don't have access to love anymore. Because what is love? Love, where does love come from? Love actually comes from your heart, right? But when there is this disease, when there is this plague of neediness that is covering over your heart, that is infecting your heart, you will not be able to access the full capacity of love that the heart is able to express, that the heart is able to exude. It's just like this simple analogy where think of yourself, your heart, as like a plant, a flower, right? And if the flower is being infected by a bug or a fungal disease, you will find that there's gonna be a layer of white dust forming inside, actually outside of the plant, that the flower cannot bloom radiantly as much. The flower cannot show her vibrant colors as much anymore. And this is just an analogy for you to think about, because the exact thing is happening whenever we are feeling needy, whenever we have this disease, right? It's a disease of the soul, a spiritual disease called neediness. And when we are feeling needy the same way, we don't have access to our hearts. We don't have access to who we actually are anymore, because who you are is the heart. You can only access you when you access the heart. However, when you're feeling needy, when you're afraid of yourself, you're going to be running away from you. And that is also how you are going to be blocking yourself from accessing you, and therefore blocking yourself from accessing love. And what that means is that whenever you are needy, you're going to be having a hard time both giving love and both receiving love. Imagine that your heart is like a channel of love, right? Your heart gives the energy called love, and here's you, here is other people, including him, the person that you're in a relationship with, or the person that you're dating. Whenever you have this spiritual disease called neediness, it's going to be blocking your heart. It's like, imagine there is this channel, there's a stream of water or a pipe, but if your heart channel is blocked because of this disease called neediness. In fact, that, my love, is exactly what neediness is doing. Anytime that we're needy, anytime that we have this fungal disease, this spiritual disease called neediness, it's essentially blocking your heart channel. Just like how when there are stones inside of a pipe, it's going to be blocking the flow of water. And it's going to be affecting both you receiving love from other people as well as you giving love to other people. So in other words, whenever you're needy, whenever you're being possessed by this spiritual disease called neediness, that means that you're going to be able to give less of love and receive less of love. Both are going to go down. Because think about it. Whenever you're needing love from someone else, whenever you're needing love from him, you cannot actually give love to him. Sure, you may be putting so much effort into this relationship. Sure, you may be cooking for him, cleaning for him, or taking care of his responsibilities. However, if it is coming from the place of neediness, it is actually not love. Because what it actually is that even when you're putting in effort, that is not love. What it is instead, it's a form of control. It's a form of manipulation. And again, I am saying this with love because when we are doing, we're not even aware that this is actually happening. I know that whenever you're feeling needy, it seems like all you want is love from him. Yes, sure. But when you're actually looking at it from an objective lens, what neediness is doing is that it's blocking you from giving love as well as receiving love. And the reason why you can't give love is because you are attached to the outcome. It's because you are giving so that they give you back in return. You are putting effort so that he does X, Y, and Z, which essentially is the disease of neediness, needing to control other people, needing to control the person that you're in a relationship with. Because everything that we're doing, even if we're giving love, even if we're putting in effort, what it actually is that we have this underlying motive. The motive is that I'm giving this to him so that he gives me back this in return. And therefore, this as a result is the reason why when we are feeling needy, whenever there is this spiritual disease of neediness, the love energy cannot flow out of our hearts. In other words, we cannot give real love, true love to the other person. And the same way, whenever we are plagued with this disease of neediness, whenever we're feeling needy, you will not be able to receive love either. Because think about it. Whenever you're feeling needy, it almost feels like as if there is a black hole sucking up, needing to grasp any form of love. But no matter how much you feed it or the other person give to you, it never feels like enough. For example, imagine someone giving you a gift or giving you something as an expression of love. But when we have this disease of neediness, we will not be able to actually receive it because the mind is thinking of what is next. The mind is not able to appreciate it, savor it, enjoy it, which is what receiving it. We are not able to enjoy, receive anything because our mind is constantly focused on the next step, the next thing that he needs to do in order for you to be loved. And of course, that doesn't mean that you need to settle for breadcrumbs and tolerate minimal behavior from a person, but it is to say that whenever we're feeling needy, we cannot bask in the pleasure of receiving because we're afraid that this supply of love will eventually be cut off. This is the reason why, for example, if you are dating, if you are seeing a guy, but then he hasn't texted you for the day, then you have a hard time enjoying your time with your friends or being focused at work. In other words, you have a hard time receiving. You have a hard time enjoying what it is at hand. For example, in your love life, if your partner compliments you, you have a hard time receiving it. You immediately deflect it and say something like, no, it's just the lighting, or I just look tired, or thanks, it's just because of this dress. In other words, whenever you have this spiritual disease called neediness, it's hard for you to receive anything because your mind is focused on what you don't have. It is focused on the deficit rather than abundance. And the same way, if a man treats you well, if you have a potential partner, meet a potential partner who texts you consistently or who showers you with attention and affection, when you're feeling needy, you find these people boring. You find these type of men to be boring. But instead, you crave for the type of men who are not able to give you what you want, who don't have the capacity to give you what you want. Because what the neediness is constantly fixated on is that it's fixated on how you don't have what you want. Which, my love, is the reason why in A Course in Miracles, which is one of my favorite spiritual books of all time, it is said that giving and receiving are actually one and the same. It says that you can only receive love to the capacity that you give, and vice versa. You can only give to the capacity that you receive. Why? Because giving and receiving are one and the same. And the same goes to love. And the same goes for love. The reason why you haven't received love from the guy, from the partner, the reason that you are not able to receive that effortlessly is because you haven't given love, whether that is to yourself or to others. Because you can only be blocked, you can only not receive when you haven't given that exact same thing. And for many empathic women, this looks like being cut off from the love that is within yourself, being cut off from giving love unto yourself, which is also one and the same with giving love onto others. And of course, for many of the women, the reason why we have a hard time receiving is because this channel of love that goes in and goes out becomes blocked by this disease of neediness. And what this disease comes from, it comes from fear. Usually it comes from the fear instilled by society, such as fear of being single, fear of being abandoned or rejected, right? All of these fears that were instilled by society or from our childhood. This is the reason why when it comes to love, the flow of love becomes blocked. When it comes to relationships, when it comes to dating. And this is the reason why in the work that I do with my clients, we don't just change your actions and change your behaviors when it comes to your love life, because all of these things are actually just surface levels. You actually have to go in even deeper, go into what is actually blocking you in the psyche, in the psychic realm, in the subconscious realm, and in the spiritual realm. And if you have a hard time receiving love from your partner, or finding yourself trapped in unreciprocated relationships, or finding yourself trapped with men who are avoidant, who are non-commit, it is because in the soul, in the psyche, there is a layer of dark energy. Again, think of it like as a spiritual plague, a spiritual disease called neediness that needs to be cleared, that needs to be released. Because only then, when you clear this blockage that is clogging up your heart, and we're talking about your spiritual heart, only then you will have the awareness of what actual, true, unconditional love is, what divine love is. And I mean the divine love that created you, that created and has brought the life into you. The reason why you're watching this video, the reason why you're alive is because of that love. And we want to be connected to that love first and foremost. And only then you can begin both giving and receiving love with ease, which also translates into receiving love with ease from your partner, from the man that you're seeing, not being afraid to ask, not being afraid to choose, to have standards or to have boundaries or to know your worth, to know your value, right? All of these actions that comes down the line, it all comes down to having the flow of the heart being cleared. Because only when this channel is cleared, that is when you feel loved all the time, even when you're on your own. Even when you're alone, even when you're by yourself, you feel loved at all times. This is the reason why my website was named I Am Always Loved, because there is the divinity in you that is always loved. And of course, when you connect to that, when you become that divinity, then the people that you're in relationship with, the person that you're in a relationship with gives you the exact love. It mirrors you, what you believe about yourself, what you believe about what love is. And that was how I have been able to transform, not only in my own life, going from unreciprocated relationships to receiving whole, healthy love from my husband, from my life partner. Not only I've been able to do that onto myself, but I've been able to support that in the same way in my clients to have that transformation too. And of course, if that is the type of transformation that you're desiring to receive in your life, book a free one-on-one consultation call to find out the exact hidden block that is holding you back in your love life and the path that takes you to the lasting, secure, whole, healthy love that you desire. The link is in the description box below. Much love.